I used to be the pensions critic for the caucus. There's a number of things that we need to do. The very first is to bump up the Pension Benefit Guarantee Fund. Right now it sits at a level that does not appropriately help workers if their pension happens to not be there when their plant closes or shuts down. We need to get a system where pensions are portable, because we know that people do not stay in the same job the way they used to in former years. And so we have to make pensions portable. We have to be able to make sure that the valuation of the pension that somebody takes to their next job, however, is a fair one, and we need to make sure workers are involved in the valuation process. We also have to make sure that we have people having their pensions vested from day one. Right now it takes a couple of years before your pension's actually vested. There's no reason for that at all. There's also issues around surplus that we have to talk about. There's actually been a paper that's recently been produced on pensions, and I'll get into more details during the open debate.
Thank you.
I would say ditto to everything that was said, because we've been working on that for some time as a caucus. I think this is a great opportunity for us as a party. How many people in this room are worried they're not going to have the retirement income they need when they retire? Put your hands up, please. Don't be bashful. It's a majority of the room. And how many people actually have a defined pension plan, defined plan? How many of you are RSP based? Oh my God, we're in trouble. That's the problem. We need to basically be the party that proposes those great ideas that sometimes people don't expect us to talk about. And we need to frame the debate from the perspective of there are too many people in this province that don't have adequate or any pension that they're able to retire with after 30 or 35 years of work. So I say yes, we should be bold. We should as a party say in the next election that we will develop a portable pension plan system that allows people to participate in a defined benefit plan so that at the end of the day they can retire with dignity, that we need to do that in such a way that basically is fair to people so that when they come to retire, they have hope of a better tomorrow.
Thank you. Peter?
Well, thank you for the question. And again, we're back in the festival of agreement on party policy. But I want to talk about one part of policy, one part of pension protection, and that's regulation of credit markets. Because I think what has been said has a lot of validity. But if, in fact, our pension plans are based on investment in companies and financial instruments that actually don't have any foundations, that are built on air, then we're in deep trouble. And what we're seeing globally right now with the meltdown of credit markets is a lack of regulation so that people were able to pump trillions, not billions, trillions into paper that had no value behind it. If we don't actually talk about realistic and solid regulation of securities and credit, then all of our pensions are going to be at risk, because when we collect money, we have to invest it. That's got to be a key part of anything we do to protect pensions in this province.
Thank you.
Way back in the 40s and 50s, there was a guy from London called Leslie Frost. Now, he was an old Tory, but Leslie Frost came up with a plan for a portability and universality of pension. And he dropped all of that when the Canada pension came along because it wasn't going to happen. But his idea was valid then, and it's valid now. And I'm not above stealing good things from conservatives, especially ones from 50 years ago. And I think that what he proposed, the time has come, because people are finding across this province that the pensions that they have paid into are not worth the money anymore. They're finding that those pensions are not portable. They're finding that those pensions cannot transfer from one job to another, and that people are starting to look for a universal pension, so that when you change from one job to another, or you belong to a little tiny company that only has 5 or 6 employees, that you can always have a pension. We should be championing that. We should be dusting off Leslie Frost. We should be going to the people. And who is going to attack us? The Conservatives? I don't think so.
Well, my friends, that's exactly the point. There is hope yet. There is hope yet. Mr. Sarkozy, the president of France, the strong bastion protector of capitalism, says what? He wants to regulate capitalism. You got George Bush, remember that guy that was president? Just got kicked out of office a few weeks ago?
A few days ago.
He wants to nationalize the banks. And you've got that other guy, McCain, that was running against Bush. Well, he wants to regulate Wall Street. God, there's hope yet. They found the Regina Manifesto. They're becoming socialist all. Yes, we have a chance.
You know, it's interesting though, because when I did go around the province a couple of years ago when I was first elected to the legislature and had this dialogue with workers and people in communities. And young people were saying to me at that time that they were worried. You know why? Not specifically around the pension piece, but the fact that they don't see themselves ever having an employer. because the only jobs they can get were through temp agencies. I mean, that's a frightening thing, when young people can't even imagine having an actual employer and only being able to work through temp agencies. But, you know, I think Michael's got a good piece there, and it's one that I had a dialogue with a number of pension experts, particularly in the labor movement at the time. Why not an Ontario pension? Who doesn't have a pension? Mostly women don't have a pension. Many women don't even have RSPs.
And MPPs.
And MPPs either, but I'm not going to cry for us, Jill. But it's true. And oftentimes women's pensions, if they have them, if they're lucky enough to have them, are not where they should be in terms of value. Why? Because they take time out of the workforce to raise children, to raise families. So if we look at an Ontario pension system, or we could look at a sectoral pension system, as was described by one of my colleagues. But there are ways to solve this problem, and I think that the pension issue is huge, because we all know the face of poverty in this province is also the face of an older woman, particularly, and that has to stop. And we have the tools to be able to implement something very, very important for the well-being of people as they get through their age, as they get through their working life and get into their senior years, so that they have the dignity and quality of life that they deserve.
Well, we are going to have to look at it, and we are going to have to look at government being far more central to both guaranteeing pensions and protecting not only the credit context within which they operate, but also making sure that that money is kept there and that companies aren't allowed to redeploy it. When you talk to people who are getting close to pension age in this province, who find that they're facing layoff or slowdown, who are cashing in their RRSPs just to meet their living expenses, you know that there's this leading edge of a crunch that's going to come in the next few years. And we in the NDP are going to have to speak to it with government-led, public-led solutions that will make sense to people, that don't abandon them to the market. If we, in fact, do want to move towards a central Ontario pension fund or a central Ontario regulation of pensions that makes sure that people aren't left high and dry, then if there was any time to do it, it's right now.
It would be a golden opportunity for the province. In all private pension plans, they want to go out and maximize the profits. So they run down to Wall Street and Bay Street, and they invest it in things that are sometimes dodgy. But I'm telling you, if Ontario ran its own pension plan and took that money and gave a reasonable return, 2 or 3 or 4% on those pension monies and helped to build it up, then Ontario could use that money for good social purpose. We could build it. We could build housing with it. We could alleviate poverty with it. We could green Ontario with it. We could help the cities. We could build things that you cannot possibly imagine. The pension funds would be safe. The pension funds would be available to workers at the end. I think Leslie Foss was right. I only wish he had have done it all those years ago, but it's not too late. We can do it now. We can use it to good social purpose. We can explain to people that you're going to get a pension when they don't have one, they'll like it. We can explain that the monies aren't going to go to foreign jurisdictions, but are going to be used for good projects right here. And when they retire at the age of 60 or 65, it will be safe, it will be secure, it will be vested, it will be transferable from job to job. And I think people across this province would vote for us in huge numbers.